Nerdrotic.com.
In an era where respect the lore is considered by some idiots as an alt-right dog whistle, it's rare that we get anything that does that, even if that source material fits some of the messaging of today. Yes, I'm here to talk about Dune, and I have to admit, it's a bit of a nerd blind spot for me. I have tried to read the book multiple times. I have tried to listen to the book multiple times. I did half watch the television series that came out about 20 years ago. My ex-wife liked it, so that's why I half watched it. And I did see the entirety of David Lynch's 1984's Dune really high on drugs, and I walked out of it thinking I saw something spiritual, although I didn't remember half of it. Now, if I haven't read the books, how do I know it's respecting the lore? Well, I talked to a couple of friends who I trust who have read the books, and they say it does. So if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. By the way, this is going to be spoiler-free and a tad bit low tier. I know you come to this channel for high-quality videos and the proper pronunciation of names. You will get neither here. I've got some time to kill before I jump on a plane to go to Timcast IRL. Now, when it comes to Denis Villeneuve, and I don't know if I pronounced his name right, and I'm just going to call him Denis from now on, I'm not the biggest fan of the work I have seen, including Blade Runner 2049, which was a very pretty, dull film with a bunch of people walking very slowly up to doorways or through hallways, and a Harrison Ford who didn't even bother getting into a costume. I was expecting much of the same with this film, and I was pleasantly surprised. Now, there are some out there who are comparing this to Lord of the Rings. Stop right there. I think Warner Brothers was hoping they would have their next Lord of the Rings on their hands, and I heard a lot of Dune fans saying that. I am sorry to say that is not the case. I would say this was a mildly good film that had my interest. I definitely want to see it again. The pacing was actually pretty good for this film. The exposition didn't feel like exposition. I feel like I knew what was going on, but I did see David Lynch's Dune and some of that TV series, so that helped. I'm not sure how it's going to play out to somebody who's going in cold. It does feel like you might need to do a little homework. There is a lot to take in, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. It is a beautifully shot film. It is a beautifully edited film. It is epic in scale, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to say this, and I would agree with them. This does need to be seen on an IMAX screen if you are going to see the film at all. I wouldn't suggest seeing it on HBO Max for the first time, maybe for your second viewing if you even want to go into a second viewing. I'm not sure how the normies are going to take to this, and I'm going to use that as a very broad term because Dune has a very specific fan base and audience. It is nerddom dialed up to 11 or 12. It's not for everyone. This is a very serious film, and it's a very pretentious film at times, and it's missing the one thing I like, and this is just my bias. Fantasy is one of my favorite genres because I do enjoy a lot of world building, but it can't come at the cost of a good character. And since this is essentially a very well-made prologue, it's hard to get into any character that either is dispatched early on or you don't see enough of them. Now, Timothée Chalamet, the very wafy lead in this film, I guess is cast correctly according to my friends. Paul Muad'Dib is supposed to be a scrawny kid, and he is a scrawny kid. The rest of the cast is Jason Momoa playing essentially a good version of Jason Momoa, Josh Brolin playing a very stoic Gurney Halleck, and Stellan Skarsgård is great as Baron Harkonnen. Oh, and it also has Zendaya, but she doesn't really come in until the end. The cast is rounded out by Oscar Isaac, Dave Bautista, Javier Bardem, and Polka Dot Man, amongst other people, and I thought they all did a pretty good job. My favorite scenes are with the Harkonnens, and I honestly thought there wasn't enough, and this might be the only time we ever see them, because here is the biggest problem with the film. Again, it is just a well-made prologue. Some say it only covers 1/3 of the book. Some say it's half of the book, and it feels like it. It ends abruptly. And proving that Warner Brothers is one of the dumbest companies in America. I mean, they own Superman. They have Henry Cavill wanting to play the character, and they refused to make a Superman film, and they didn't have a Dune sequel in production when they're rolling out their very expensive film. it's not looking good. I hope I'm wrong, because I don't think this is going to have a high rewatchability rate with the normies. Now, the story centers around a scrawny little prince with superpowers, Paul Atreides, or Muad'Dib, which translates into Messiah in the Freeman language, the indigenous people of Arrakis, the planet Dune. It's a very political story centered around one very precious resource, spice, which helps with interstellar space travel and some superpower. This is a well-earned question that will be asked. Is this film woke? I'm going to say no. Whatever messaging was in there was already in the source material, including the all-female order of the Bene Gesserits, who are superpowered, but they ended up needing a man anyway, so I'm not sure how well that's going to play with the feminists. There's also the imperial colonists oppressing the indigenous people and exploiting their land. That being said, that's exactly what science fiction is for. What if there was a giant universe-spanning kingdom with a jealous emperor pitting one house against another for a precious resource, featuring a superhero space Jesus? And for the most part, it worked. It was a well-made, pretty prologue that gives you a bit of nerd blue balls at the end. But I wouldn't be surprised, or I wouldn't blame anybody for just being fed up with political allegory, even if it is based on a book from decades ago. Timing is everything. And if this is somebody's first time watching this film after putting up with Hollywood's politics over the last few years, then I wouldn't blame you for just wanting to dip out. As far as the acting goes, the only standout performance for me anyway was Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Harkonnen. Like I said before, Timothée Chalamet is competent as Paul. It's not terrible. It's not standout. And that's what I would say about all of the other performances. This is a very well-made professional spectacle that isn't a ton of fun. And yes, again, it needs to be seen in the theaters in a time where not a lot of people are going to the theaters. And lastly, as far as the soundtrack goes, I think it's pretty good. Probably not as good as the David Lynch film, but if you're a fan of Hans Zimmer's French horn farts, they are back in a big way. A bit of good news and a bit of bad news. So we'll start with the good news. Dune fans, I think you got the faithful adaptation that you have been looking for. Unfortunately, I'm not sure you're going to get any more, because Warner Brothers made a good film, but not a great one. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.